begin our practice in a mountain posture, take a moment to find your feet under your hips. Let your shoulders relax back and down, and your eyes can rest gently closed, or you can find something to let your gaze fall on softly. And start to notice your breath. Big full inhales and big full exhales. Coming into this moment, we'll take a big stretch up, reaching the arms overhead, letting the gaze follow if that feels okay. And then we'll let our palms come to rest at our heart center. Letting your thumbs rest at the center of your chest. Feeling your heart beat for a moment. We'll take a big reach up again before letting it all go and folding forward. Letting the head get heavy now. You can rest your hands anywhere you'd like. Start to take a halfway heart lift here, sliding the fingertips up, letting the crown come forward before folding in again, this time even more completely. You might even gently shake your head or take ragdoll arms here, holding opposite elbows if you'd like. Some people like to sway across the feet. Release the arms and take another halfway heart lift before folding in completely. Bend your knees, now rise all the way up, reaching your fingertips back to the sky before bringing your palms back to rest at heart center. Stay for a full round of breath. Try that again, reaching up, maybe looking up, and then taking that bow, folding in, letting the head come down before lifting our hearts, and then folding completely. Bending our knees, we'll rise back up again, stretching to the sky, and then bringing our palms back to our heart. Nice big sun breaths. You can take a pause here or start to try the next one, reaching and releasing. Lifting and letting go. We'll start to come back up here, taking that stretch up to the sky. And this time we'll bring our palms back into heart center as we bend our knees and take our hips back, coming into a chair. Checking in to make sure our weight's not falling forward over the toes. Finding that length from our crown to our tail and settling in for just another few breaths. And then eventually we'll press into the legs and reach all the way back up before taking another bow, folding in. Heart lift here, finding that length across the spine. We'll fold completely before coming all the way back up. And once again, bringing our palms into our heart, we'll bend our knees and settle our hips back. Finding that chair again. Staying for a moment. Settling in here for another breath or two. Maybe even deepening slightly. And then reaching up again. This time, we'll let one arm come down to our side as we start to stretch the other fingertips over towards that same side. And after you've breathed into this side body for a breath or two, we'll come back up through center before taking it to the other side. You might even take your gaze up towards the inside of the arm if that feels right for you. Noticing how the air in your lungs helps to gently stretch out your side body. And once again, after a breath or two, we'll come through center and back to the other side, this time staying for a breath or two or three. And you get to choose the pace here, so you might move one breath per movement, or you might stay for a while. Just taking about 5 to 10 breaths to explore here at your own pace this side body stretch. Whenever you feel even in both directions, we'll bring our palms back in through heart center and bend the knees as we bring our hips back, finding our way into that chair again. This time, once again, you can stay, or you can come back up to mountain posture at any time. Eventually, we'll all come back up to stand, and we'll let our palms rest comfortably at the center of our chest. Start to look towards the short end of your mat as you step one foot forward, stepping the other foot back and giving that heel a slight turn back as you square your hips towards that short end of the mat. Starting to come into warrior one now. So our front knee is bent and centered over the ankle and the back leg is straight. Your fingertips can be lifted or you can keep your palms at your heart. And wherever you decide to keep them, let's take 5 full breaths. 1 breath to connect each fingertip from our pinky all the way to our thumb. Feel complete there, you can release the hands and we'll start to let our hands come down near our lower back. You can rest your hands at your lower back, or some people like to clasp the hands together and give a gentle press back for a little chest expansion, deepening that stretch across the front of the shoulders as we prepare to hinge forward for a humble warrior. So once again, you can keep that bind or you can let it go. And we'll keep pressing back into that outer edge of our back foot, feeling that long line come up the leg, through the spine and the crown of the head. Eventually, we'll all release the hands as we prepare to step forward, bringing our palms back into the heart, finding our breath for a moment. And then we'll take that big stretch up again, preparing to come back down into our chair. So we'll keep our palms at heart center here. Of course, if you like to stretch your arms out, you could always try that as well. Settling in for a breath or two. And this time we'll take a little twist. So keeping that twist above the waist, we'll aim to keep our knees nice and even with each other. And the elbow doesn't need to rest on the leg, but it can if you like to. After a few breaths here, we'll take that big stretch back up to the sky. We'll bring our palms back to our hearts as we prepare to step the other foot to the back of the mat. Taking as much time as you'd like to adjust your feet here as you square your hips forward, and choosing to keep the fingertips at the heart or send them to the sky. We'll settle in for those 5 full breaths, maybe using this opportunity to connect through each fingertip. Bringing our awareness to those smallest areas of our body. And just like on the other side, we'll release the fingertips here whenever you feel complete, allowing them to come back to the lower back. And if you liked the way it felt before, you could lace the fingertips together again. Maybe even taking your gaze up for a breath, deepening the bend in the front knee before hinging forward from the waist and finding your way back into that humble warrior on this side. Staying for those 5 full breaths again. Before stepping back to the short end of the mat, letting our palms rest at our heart for a moment before reaching back up and making our way back down into that chair. Preparing to twist to the other side. Keeping that twist above the waist as we aim to keep our knees in line with each other. And just like before, you can let your gaze rest forward or start to take the gaze up. Rising back up after a few breaths, and then bringing our palms to our hearts for a breath. We'll take a big breath to reach the fingertips up, and then we'll come back down into our fold. This time taking a halfway heart lift before stepping the right foot to the back of the mat and working our way back up to that warrior one. 5 full breaths now, connecting the fingertips, being in your body, noticing what you feel without any judgment. When you feel complete here, we'll release the hands again, with or without the bind. We'll take our gaze up for a breath before coming back into that humble warrior. Just like before, pressing into the back heel, keeping the heart open and lifted. Eventually releasing the hands. We'll all take a big breath, reaching up and lifting up. And this time we'll bring our hands down to the mat before stepping that left foot back, finding our way into a plank or lowering the knees for a modified plank. And make all the adjustments you need to make here until you feel your palms underneath your shoulders and a nice long line from your crown down through your knees or your heels. And then we'll shift our weight forward slightly as we hug our elbows in towards the rib cage to lower our bodies down towards the mat, taking our time to get there. Moving nice and slow and eventually coming all the way to the belly. And know that you can lower your knees at any time. Good. And then we'll take a little lift up. So untucking the toes, a little baby cobra. We'll lift the chin, lift the heart, keep squeezing the shoulder blades together. And then release completely. This time, press all the way back, bringing your hips towards your heels to find your way into a child's posture. And you can rest your forehead to the ground here, or some people like to stack their hands one on top of another to make a pillow, or even stack their fists. Wherever you can find some steadiness and ease behind your neck, and a connection at that space between your brow. Let the back body stretch and expand. And whenever you feel ready, we'll work our way up to a tabletop. So take a moment to place your wrists under your shoulders and your knees under your hips, and find the full length of your spine from your tail to your crown as we prepare to float through some spine stretches. So we'll start with the neck here, gently rocking ear to shoulder and ear to shoulder, moving back and forth a few times with your breath. We can take some more spine stretches here if that feels okay. Dipping the belly forward as you lift your heart, lift your chest, and lift your tail. And then rounding the spine, letting the head drop down, letting the pelvis press forward as you draw the belly up, lifting the back to the sky. And you can float back and forth through this stretch, or some people like to free up the movement here, maybe switching the hips from side to side or taking a more circular stretch. Just moving freely any way that you'd like. After you've explored this for about 5 breaths, we'll press the hips back towards the heels again, settling into that child's posture, letting the forehead relax down. And then if you'd like, you can even tuck your toes and start to send your hips up to the sky for downward facing dog. letting the heels draw down and back as your hips draw up towards the sky. You can let your crown relax down as you find yourself balanced between the arms and the legs. And then feel free to explore any stretches you'd like here. Some people like to bend one knee and press the opposite heel down. You can move back and forth, taking a full round of breath on each side. And eventually we'll look forward and step our right foot forward as we let our back heel come down and rise up to find ourselves in that warrior one on the other side. Staying for 5 full breaths, bringing our awareness to the fingertips with each breath. And eventually letting the hands come back towards our lower back and taking that bind if you liked it before. Pressing back for that full chest expansion before hinging forward into humble warrior. Once again, we'll release the arms and rise back up for a breath before letting our hands come down, and this time stepping that right foot back to find ourselves back in that plank. Remembering you can always lower your knees. We'll take 5 full breaths here now, pressing the earth away, pressing into the balls of the feet. You're complete there, we'll start to lower our bodies back down towards the ground, feeling free to come all the way down, or this time if you prefer to come halfway down, you can try that as well. And then we'll lift our bodies up again as well, coming halfway up or to the tops of the feet, lifting the heart all the way up for upward facing dog. And then pressing our hips back. So either child's posture or downward facing dog, it's your choice. And we'll settle in for 5 full breaths in stillness now. Balance, that ease, and that steadiness. And then we'll all let our knees come down and work our way back into that tabletop. So again, exploring freely any neck or spine stretches that you'd like. And if you prefer to rest in a child's posture here, you could do that as well. Taking a few more breaths to explore any movement you'd like. eventually we'll all meet back in that table. Go ahead and stretch our left leg back, pressing through the ball of the foot. Option to send your right fingertips forward as well, keeping your gaze steady and neutral at the mat in front of your fingertips, and feeling yourself reaching from your fingertips all the way through your opposite foot. Keep hugging your belly button in as you reach. And after 5 full breaths, we'll let that go. When you're ready, send your right foot back, and we'll try the same thing here on the other side. Knowing you don't have to do the same thing here, you can always change your mind and keep the hand down. And then after you feel those 5 full breaths are complete, you can let that go. We'll tuck our toes to face under as we send our hips back to the sky for that downward facing dog. This time we'll prepare to stretch our left foot up to the sky. So bring your 2 big toes close together at the center of the mat, and then we'll start to press into the ball of the right foot as we stretch our left leg up, grounding our right shoulder down and then stepping that left foot to the front of the mat. We'll let the back heel spin down as we rise back up, revisiting Warrior One. This time we'll bring our palms into heart center. And we'll start to shift our weight forward now, lifting the back leg and coming through a little Warrior Three, turning our toes down towards the mat. Before stepping forward and finding ourselves in mountain. And you can take a moment to let that land. Scan your body with your awareness as you stand here in this place, balanced on both feet. And we'll prepare to take another big stretch up to the sky, reaching the fingertips up, lifting the gaze. And then we'll make our way back down into our chair, sending the hips back, bringing the palms to the heart. And this time taking our twist to the left. Making all of those adjustments as we check in with the knees. Taking a big stretch up after a few breaths before letting it all go and coming down into fold. This time we'll step our left foot back as we rise back up for Warrior One on the right. Staying for a breath or two before bringing our palms into our hearts and preparing to shift our weight forward for Warrior Three on this side. Toes down towards the mat before stepping forward and finding ourselves back in mountain posture. And then we'll land here on both feet for a breath or two before stretching up again and finding our way back into chair again. This time taking our twist to the right. And reaching up, lengthening the legs, we'll fold in again. Taking that little heart lift. Before folding completely. And this time we'll stop the right foot back, followed by the left, and find ourselves in that plank or modified plank before taking our shift forward and floating through vinyasa here, lowering down halfway or all the way, lifting up halfway or all the way, and pulling back, down dog or child's posture. When you get there, settle in and breathe. As your body starts to soften and you let yourself feel heavy, notice yourself supported by the ground, held in this moment and at ease. Allow the breath to fill your body. Empty completely. And after a few breaths here, we'll start to walk our fingertips in towards us, making our way into a hero's posture. If this is uncomfortable for you, you can feel free to sit in any other place or stay in that child's posture. Or you might bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly here to feel your body breathe. We'll take our fingertips back to the sky as we reach up into high kneeling, and then we'll let our hands come to rest at our lower back, lifting our hearts again, lifting our chin and our chest for a little modified camel. And then we'll walk our hands back out in front of us as we settle our hips back into that child's posture. Now you can choose down dog instead if you prefer. And we'll all come up to down dog for a breath or two, as we prepare to stretch our right foot to the sky this time. We'll step that right foot to the front of the mat, and this time we'll allow the left knee to come down. We'll point that toe behind us as we start to lift our hearts. And you can keep your hands down or to a block, or you might bring them up to rest on your hips or your thigh. And make any adjustments by walking the front foot forward or the back knee back until you have your ankle centered under your knee. And another option could be to send the fingertips up. Wherever you go, we'll stay for 5 breaths, so maybe using that fingertip connection. An option to let the hands come to the lower back again, binding the fingertips and taking that chest expansion if you liked it. And then we'll all start to fold forward from the waist, straightening out our front leg as we press our hips back and fold in for a half split. Letting our heart come towards our knee. Once again, blocks under the hands are nice here. And we'll start to walk our weight forward, letting the hips come forward as we send our fingertips back up again before letting that go. Starting to press the hips back as we straighten out the front leg and fold in again. So you can choose to stay in this stretch, or you might start to rock forward and back a few more times. Reaching to the sky on an inhale and releasing as you fold on an exhale. Start to find your own little flow, or find a place to rest in stillness. And after a few times back and forth, we'll tuck the back toe this time, lifting the knee, really engaging the leg. So you could stay in that low lunge or start to press up through the feet and lift the fingertips for a crescent lunge. And then we'll all let our hands come down. This time, letting that left hand come to the inside of the right foot as we lift the right fingertips for a few breaths in a twist. Keep pressing into the ball of the back foot as you lift, and then let it go. We'll step our back foot forward and take that heart lift again before relaxing into our fold. Bend our knees to come back up, stretching to the sky. And then we'll let it all go, folding in again, lifting our hearts, and this time stepping the left foot to the back of the mat, followed by the right. Option to take a vinyasa here or to rest in a child's posture. And then we'll all lower our knees and send our hips back to ground down for a moment. Breathing into the back body. Before walking our hands in towards us again. Reaching up for that high kneeling. And then coming into a little modified camel. Drawing the elbows together, drawing the shoulder blades together. Of course, if you feel the need to deepen your camel here, you can feel free to reach back for the heels, keeping your heart lifted, keeping that length through the crown of your head. And then we'll all fold back into that child's posture, walking the hands out for a nice counter stretch. And of course, you can tuck your toes and lift your hips to the sky if you prefer. Eventually, we'll send our left foot to the sky and then step our left foot to the front of the mat. Lowering the knee and pointing the right toes behind us as we start to settle into that low lunge on this side. And again, if you have a block, you could use it here, or you could start to send the fingertips up again. 5 full breaths now. Turning in on your awareness, keeping the shoulders relaxed. And if you liked that chest expansion, of course, you can drop the hands behind you for a breath, lacing the fingers and taking that extra stretch, that extra lift through the front body before letting it go. We'll reach our fingertips down towards the heel as we fold forward, pressing the hips back. And then if you liked it before, you can start to find a little flow here. Shifting your weight forward and lifting your fingertips again when you're ready. Choosing to stay in this stretch or start to move back and forth. Knowing it doesn't have to be the same on this side as it was on the other. When you feel about even here, we'll tuck the back toes to lift the knee again. Staying low here or lifting the fingertips, it's your choice. Taken a few breaths, let the hands come back down, letting your right fingertips rest inside the left foot as you lift your left fingertips to the sky for that twist. And then letting that go. This time we'll step that back foot forward, floating it forward, coming through Warrior 3 for a breath before finding ourselves on both feet. Taking a pause, taking the time to check in and feel our feet on the ground before reaching up again, maybe a little back bend this time before hinging in to our fold. And you can stay here this time, maybe deepening or bending the knees. You might wrap your arms behind the legs or gently shake your head or sway from side to side. Just letting your body feel heavy here for a moment. Letting your back stretch. Finding that moment of surrender. Being okay with what is. And then we'll release that bind and lift our hearts again before stepping that left foot about halfway back on the mat this time. We'll keep all of our toes squared towards the front of the mat. And we'll keep the natural distance of the hips between the feet widthwise. And we'll start to hinge forward into our pyramid stretch here. So again, a block or blocks by the front foot can be nice. Just imagining your heart releasing towards your knee. Letting everything be soft and heavy. Knowing it's okay to bend that front knee slightly if this feels like too much of a stretch. Or you could put a little bit more space between the feet. And then we'll take a halfway heart lift as we start to come into a twisted triangle here. Lifting our right fingertips up. Staying for a breath or 2 or 3, and then releasing that stretch. Now, lift our hearts again, and we'll step the back foot forward. And then we'll relax back into our fold. Bend your knees to rise back up. Bring your palms to rest at your heart for a moment. And we'll try it on the other side. So when you're ready, taking the big stretch up again before folding in and letting go. Lift your heart and step your right foot halfway back this time, making any adjustments you want to make to the feet as you start to come into the pyramid stretch on this side. Playing around with how much space you keep, lengthwise and widthwise. Start to relax into your stretch. Maybe just noticing if one side of your body feels the same or feels different. Practicing noticing sensations without judging sensations. And then we'll take a halfway heart lift on this side as we prepare to come into that twisted triangle here. Lifting the left fingertips this time and taking the gaze along with before coming back in. And then this time we'll walk our fingertips back around to the long edge of the mat as we start to settle into a little wide-legged forward fold. So you can increase the space between the heels if you'd like as you start to fold in. And you can rest your hands to a block here or even your forehead. Some people like to walk their hands back behind the legs or take a gentle sway from side to side. So any variation that you like here, try to let your head get heavy. Try to let your crown dip down towards the ground. Staying for 5 full breaths. And when you feel complete, we'll take another halfway heart lift here. This time we'll turn our heels in and our toes out. And we'll start to lift up through the legs, placing our palms to our thighs in a little mini goddess squat. And we'll come into some twists here. So we'll bring that left shoulder in as we look back towards the right. And after a full breath, we'll come through center and take it over to the other side. Good. And you can stay as long as you'd like here, or you might start to find yourself floating back and forth on each breath. Moving until you feel even in both directions. And eventually we'll meet each other back at center. Start to straighten the legs as you reach your arms out to either side. And then we'll start to dip back down into that goddess squat, this time lifting the arms like little goalposts. So on an inhale, we'll straighten the legs, and on an exhale, we'll dip back into goddess. Using your breath here to guide you back and forth, knowing that you don't have to do either of these. You can come to rest in one or the other if you prefer. And if it feels okay, you might even settle into that goddess squat for a few breaths. Wherever you are, we'll bring our palms into our hearts. Find a little stillness. And then straighten the legs and reach up. Meeting each other in that star. We'll turn our toes forward again. Feeling the steadiness, the strength, the reach in all directions. And then we'll start to shift our weight over to one side. Pressing the back of the opposite knee back as you open up that hip. Coming into a little modified tree so you can keep your toes on the ground here. Just feeling yourself steady and rooted into your standing leg. After a few breaths, we'll see how much control we can find to step the feet wide again, spreading the fingertips, reaching in all directions. And then slowly start to shift your weight to the other side. Again, finding as much control as you can as you open up that hip, pressing the knee back and finding a little easy tree on this side. And as you root down on this side, you might start to imagine yourself growing roots down through the bottom of your foot as you steady yourself in this posture. Being with what is, strong and supported. And eventually we'll step back to that star, reaching out in all directions, feeling ourselves on both feet, balanced between the legs before shifting back to the other side. As much control as you can find. This time you might choose to lift the foot up off the ground. You don't have to. You could always change your mind and place it back down. Just being mindful of our joints here. So resting that foot to the inside of the calf or the inner thigh, but not the knee or the ankle. And you might even start to grow some branches here, sending your fingertips to the sky. And after a few breaths, we'll find that control again as we step back to that star. Spreading out and feeling the balance on both legs before shifting to the other side again. And once again, you might start to lift the foot, or you could keep it to the mat. If you liked the branches, you could start to grow your branches here. Relaxing your shoulders away from your ears as you stretch your fingertips up. And then making your way back to that star. Bring our palms into our heart center and step our feet back underneath our hips, finding ourselves back in that mountain posture where we started. Resting our palms at heart center and coming in contact with the beating of our heart again. Taking a moment to be here in this moment. Standing in perfect balance. You might even start to bring one hand to your heart and one hand to your belly, or you could release your arms to your sides. Feeling what you feel and noticing what you notice without any judgment. So you could start to make your way down into a comfortable seated or reclining posture here for a little final relaxation. As you start to come to a place of rest, let your body be supported in any way that makes you feel comfortable. So lying down or seated is fine. Feel free to use any pillows, props, or blankets that you have available. We'll allow our bodies to start to become still and heavy, feeling ourselves supported in every way. As you arrive here in this stillness, start to notice if you are still holding on to any tension or tightness throughout your body. Start to let any of that tension or tightness float away. We'll allow ourselves a few minutes to rest in this quiet, gentle place. Knowing there's no need to do or think anything right now. Simply allowing ourselves to rest. Enjoy a few minutes of silence. free to stay here in this restful place for as long as you'd like. And whenever you feel ready, make your way back up to any comfortable seated posture, taking your time to get there. Seal your practice by resting your palms back at the center of your chest one final time. Bowing our heads in gratitude as we say Namaste. The light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. Namaste.